Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Mattson and
Better read than dead.
And Alec.
Let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. As always, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, follow button, hit the bell notification if you're on YouTube, all those fun buttons to let you keep up with what we're doing. Those of you that are live watching, we're going to do 2 episodes, so there will be a cut. I'll let you know when it comes, but we're going to jump in with the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Yeah. So yeah, let's just jump right in, guys. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a lot to say about this because I don't know how I feel about it quite yet.
Why is that, JJ?
Well, because
they screwed it up, Mattson.
Yeah, there's some stuff I don't love. Everything that they're doing with Galadriel bothers me. Because it's way off canon, and I understand, like, we're dealing with characters that don't have a lot of canon, unfortunately, because Tolkien passed away before he was able to complete a lot of his further books. But there's enough information to understand the nature of Galadriel and some of the stories. Now, they don't have the rights to some of the actual told stories because they don't have the rights. My understanding is they don't have the rights to the Unfinished Tales or the Silmarillion. So those are 2 books that have, while still not a lot of detail, have some of the more concrete stories that involved Galadriel, at least getting to Middle Earth and setting up Lorien and being, getting a hold of meeting Celeborn and all of that fun stuff. But this whole, basically, episode 1 and 2 for Galadriel is revenge porn. I mean, that's really what it is. Her brother dies, which, I mean, is canon, but in the books, in the notes that you can read, and she's sad, but she doesn't care. Like, she's there for power. Like, she wants to rule. I was telling Alec earlier, like, that's what she is. She's not this white hat, super good character. Like, she wants to be powerful. She wants to be a queen.
Was that why she struggles with the ring in actual Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, that's why she's tempted by the ring, and that's her big challenge, to decide she no longer needs to be on Middle Earth and she can, retreat to the west and go back to Valinor at that point. So she is a very different character than what they're portraying. Now, I understand she's the name, right, that everybody wants to see from the original trilogy at this time frame is Galadriel, Elrond, these characters that they know from the original trilogy, but unfortunately, they're not the most interesting characters at this time. They're just not. And so I get why they did it, but they changed so much. And I just don't love her story. And because her story is at the forefront and is the one that they lead with and they've told the most of in these first 2 episodes, it has put this dark shadow, no pun intended, over the rest of what's going on, which, to be honest, I'm a fan of a little bit of it. Like, I love, like, we were talking, what's his name again, Alec?
Aralid.
The character that, here's the funny part. The characters that are made up for this show that aren't part of actual canon are the best parts so far. The human and the elf from the Southern Lands, the guy that Galadriel runs into in episode 2 on the boat, he's made up. I like him. He's intriguing. But the characters that are named outside of the Durin, it was cool to see Durin and his father. Like, that was pretty cool. So
Papa Delos.
That's right.
When I saw the dwarves, I couldn't help but thinking, like, JJ belongs there with his beard. He just needs it to be like 5 feet longer, because JJ loves him drinking beer, big beard. Like, yeah, I don't know. Could work.
I could see it.
I used to have a beard that was
all right,
pretty far down there.
I just have to talk about that subject for a second. It was cool to see. Was that the Mines of Moria that we saw? That's what I thought. I was like, I told Tay, I was like, this is what it would have been if in the first Lord of the Rings, if they had shown up and they were still around doing their thing and didn't get wiped out by a bunch of orcs. So it was really cool to see it. thought it was super cool to see how they had that big paint of that mirror, moved it around to grow crops, and just the fascination of that civilization there, and the personal grudge Doran held against Elrond. Like I was like, yeah, like 20-year grudge. Like hold on to that shiz. That was great. That was probably my favorite part of the first 2 episodes. Is I really felt just involved there and a part of it, and that felt really Lord of the Rings to me. And they really had some good humor elements there, and some character progression that I quite liked in that part. It was cool to see that. I just loved to see what it looked like before it was destroyed.
Yeah, and I love the fact that like there were hints of what you saw in like, because you didn't get to see much in the movies in the Lord of the Rings. Like there's a pretty cool description of it in the books when you're reading them, but even then it's black as night. They only have their torches and Gandalf's little staff that are lighting the way, and but you can hear like see the carvings in the vast caverns and these halls that they had. So to be able to see that with the fact that they've got this flowers and the bushes and the greenery and all that stuff in it was really dope. Like the Khazad-dûm was the best part. Like so cool. And then the little hint at the end of the episode that showed that they've come upon the, oh my God, my mind just went blank. The metal, the mithril.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they were? Because when they were talking about singing to the metal and stuff, I was like, it's not the ring yet. The rings that they were made and such. And so it's mithril then.
Yeah. So that's eventually what takes down Khazad-dûm is the fact that they dive too deep. So it was like this juxtaposition where Durin's wife was talking about, she sings to the rocks, and the cavern will tell them when to stop digging in order to mess things up. But what they do is they dig too deep and they open up a hole basically that allows the Balrog, who's not even the biggest, baddest Balrog. But you see, and that's never mind. Okay, I'm going to stop there and finish this, and then I'll tell you why I'm irritated by that sentence. But yeah, they open up the Balrog. Durin's Bane comes in and wrecks the joint. So it's that greed for the mithril that causes Khazad-dûm to fall. So yeah. So speaking of villains, we have this overarching villain of Sauron, right? Which is lazy to me, because we talk about Morgoth, who was Sauron's boss.
Explain, because I've never heard that name until I started watching.
He is the big bad. He's the biggest
big bad. So he's the one that made it so the elves came to Middle-earth. There was a whole issue where the 2 trees, and they kind of gave it in some really weird exposition at the beginning of the first episode, showing the 2 trees like that were the lifeblood of Valinor, where it was destroyed. Well, that was Morgoth, who was one of them. I mean, he lived there. He was just a dick. And
he was an elf?
He was a Maiar.
Yeah. There were more than just Valar.
He was Valar.
Yeah. There were more than just elves that lived on Valinor. And so they were all infinite beings. So everyone that lived on Valinor are infinite beings.
With Tolkien being like super Christian and such, like the Valinor sounds almost like the preload. Like, I mean, I'm LDS, we call it the pre-mortal existence. I mean, you call it what you want. There's religions all have their own thing, but it sounds like the immortal beings that were in a place of peace and harmony, and then this dude just came and just effed it all up, is what it sounds like.
Pretty much.
It's accurate.
Yeah, there's definitely there's tie-ins from that faith system and belief system from
sure for Tolkien. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's yeah. When you go back, there's all sorts of religious overtones throughout all of the stories, even in Silmarillion and the Unfinished Tales and the notes and stuff. So
Morag, did orcs exist, or Morag created orcs?
Morgoth. So no, you're good. Orcs are created from they're a cross of elves and goblins, and so they're created. They weren't a natural entity within. So it was elves. It was the Valar, which the elves are technically Valar, and then there were 2 others, and I don't remember.
So were goblins on Valar as well? Okay.
They're a Middle Earth product.
Got it.
Yeah. So when they come across, there's a banishment. That's how some of these elves leave. They go to, but there's so many better villains. So Morgoth, I'm okay if you start at, because you have to get to the second age. Morgoth has to be defeated. That's cool. But you've got, like, there is, because you remember the giant, what was her name? The giant spider in
Ungoliant.
Yeah. So, but the one in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, Shelob.
Shelob that takes down, that they're fighting with. She's like puny. She's a little baby spider compared to Ungoliant, who's actually the one that destroyed the trees. She poisoned the trees she was an ally of Morgoth, and Ungoliant was about to whoop Morgoth's ass at one point. And then this Balrog, that's like the Balrog of all Balrogs. So the one that they faced in Khazad-dûm in the original trilogy is like, again, like a baby Balrog. This dude's, yeah, dude, seriously. And I don't remember the big Balrog's name.
Gothmog.
Gothmog. Dude, this dude is no joke. And so I just feel like there's so many other, and they're still alive in this time frame. I mean, and then there's dragons. I mean, there's so many things that they could be telling these stories. And I realize that they're missing some of the already told stories, but son of a bitch,
but
to make Sauron the guy is annoying.
But I don't have a problem with like leading into Sauron, like his rise to power and who he was and what he became. Because so look at this way, for me, like take Harry Potter for instance. If they came out and said, "Hey, we're making a Harry Potter TV show about the rise of Voldemort and the backstory and how that happened and such," I'd be cool with that. And for me, with Sauron, I'd love to know how he came to power. What did that look like? How did he get himself to be where he is to eventually fall? Me personally, I don't have a problem with that story because I'd love to see that story. If they told me that, but in process there was all these other, where he's maybe the overarching, but then they get into some of these other characters you talk about, JJ, that where they can spin that into it, I don't have a problem with that. But again, that's me.
Well, and I think that's what I'm kind of hinting at is I'm okay with like this overarching theme being Sauron's still out there, because part of the reason that these other characters still had power is because the darkness of Sauron and Morgoth, that's still on the Middle Earth. Like the orcs and all these characters of darkness, they tend to thrive when there's a big cover of darkness, and the people that can do that are people like Morgoth and Sauron. But without them, like Ungoliant's always going to be a badass, but she's not quite as cool if there's not one of these immortal beings that are around to project this dark magic and power throughout Middle Earth. So what I was hoping for was that we would have like a hint at Sauron still around, and then we would see some of like, and you can even have the orcs that are like we see in the Southlands, they're building strength, which is real. And then you have someone like Ungoliant, and then you have, the big bad Balrog, and you have some others of these. You can start to get into even the original 9 Kings of Men, who at the time weren't looked at as evil, but they weren't really good people either. I mean, there's a reason that they were so easily corrupted by the ring. So it's one of those things where there's so many stories they could be telling under the canopy of Sauron is coming back versus here's this, it's all about this revenge fantasy of getting to Sauron, who is not dead. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it just, for me, I just feel like they spent so much money. They have so much time. We know there's going to be multiple seasons because they invested way too much money for there not to be. So why jump right into the meat of that instead of saying, hey, here we go. There's a lot of other stuff. So maybe they'll get there. That's why I don't have a lot, because I'm trying to not 100% take a dump on this show, because visually stunning.
The score was amazing.
Yeah, music was amazing. The visuals were stunning, except some of the armor looked really terrible. But I mean, the CGI was amazing. It looked really good for the most part. It was nice to get some of it. Really intrigued me. Like I said, the human and elf story in the Southlands, really cool. Khazad-dûm with even Elrond, who is a character I'm not a huge fan of, but seeing Durin and Durin's dad, like, I've always been intrigued by Khazad-dûm and Durin, and the fact that Durin is like, the Hobbit doesn't happen without Durin, because it's his kids and his cousins, and you know what I mean, that are on that journey. So it's just interesting to me. So,
what about you, Alec?
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it either, or at all, really.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be really cool and make more sense, like JJ was saying, if you have Sauron be the bad guy from the shadows, right? They kind of know he's out there, but if Galadriel is hunting him down, which she is, you'd think she would have found him by now, considering how much time she has. But if you had Gothmog the Balrog pop up, and you had Ungoliant, or you had Shelob, or you had something else that would distract you from finding Sauron, so by the time you got to this new lead you were chasing down, he's already been moved, right? He's gone. You see traces of him, but you can't find him. Because I have a hard time believe that they just kept going north, and he's been chilling in the Southlands.
Yeah.
In Morgoth's old domain, which is Mordor. Like, that was the last place they looked, and they're just keep on going further and further north, and their solution is just keep going north. We'll find him.
Yeah.
It's like, really? And you're supposed to be great at this? So, I mean, I really like the made-up characters, too. Halbrand? Dope. I hope he has a bigger part to play.
Yeah.
And then I really, I messaged JJ this. Young Elrond does not do it for me, because the same guy who plays young Ned Stark.
Yeah.
Good for him, right? He knows what he's doing. But I couldn't, every time he opened his mouth, all I heard was, I looked for you on the Trident.
See, I didn't have that problem because
the blessing of not seeing Game of Thrones. Yeah, because I saw it too. I was like, oh.
I will run into that problem at some point because I am watching it now.
Season 7, 6. Is it 6?
Actually, no,
I got a while
because I won't even watch those because it's not worth it.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you got to watch. I don't know. There's a battle in season 7 you got to watch because the first time you see the dragons in full on battle is bitchin', which is in season 7. But anyway, that's neither.
Lord of the Rings could bring in a dragon. That'd be awesome.
I mean, they kind of did, but it was going down at the end. I'm like, son of a bitch. Why? I want. Anyway.
Because there are so many cool villains that they have, and I'm worried because they're jumping straight to this ring crafting, which JJ, you and I were talking about. It's like 1,000 years down the line when they finally get it done.
Yeah.
It takes that long?
Yeah. Before Sauron gets his full power, we're like 1,000 years away.
Yeah, there's still a lot of shit that has to happen. Like, we're in the Southlands. There's no tower. So the towers have not been built yet.
So Southland is Mordor?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Southlands are where Mordor's at. So we're missing a tower. Like, we're missing 3 towers because there's technically 3 towers before.
The map was hard because I know it was the same, but the names are different right now. And I was like, I should have looked at it and then be like, oh, yeah, I would have realized if I had seen that. Yeah. Okay. So Lindor is, what does that get changed to in Lord of the Rings?
That's a chocolate. You're talking about Linden.
Sorry, Lindor. Linden, Utah. I mean, similar problem. But Linden does that turn into Rivendell?
Yes.
That's what it looked like.
Yes. Yeah, parts of it. But most of it, yes, becomes Rivendell.
Okay. And the elves that get sent to the, what do they call it, the Far West or whatever, are they like being transfigured or like turning into spirit? Or I wasn't quite sure what was happening there.
So they're basically being, this one annoys me too. So first of all, Valinor calls to the elves and the sea calls to the elves. And what they talk about in the books is that the sea is calling to the elves. They feel like it's time for them to leave Middle-earth and go home. And during the Second Age, very few of them did leave. They mostly stayed, which we're in the Second Age. And we're early in the Second Age. So what happens is they show basically they've added this element of banishment, basically. Gil-galad was like, I don't want her here. She's annoying. She's a threat to my reign. And so I'm going to send her and her army away. Well, it's a great honor to go back to Valinor. That was originally their home, but they usually do it on their own accord. And there's constantly boats running from Middle-earth to Valinor throughout the Second and Third Age when these elves decide to go. But they never were sent, and Galadriel was never even close to being sent back to Valinor by Gil-galad. She ruled as a queen of her own land under Gil-galad for the entire time Gil-galad was alive and on Middle-earth. There was never this weird issue. That's one of the other things that I was like, what the fuck is happening? Sorry for my language. And then when she jumps off and swims the entire freaking Sundering Sea, are you kidding me? Anyway, that's a whole nother element that.
Well, that part was weird, but like, see, a lot of these details, I don't. If it's funny because I don't know this lore as much of now. If we did like Aragon, or if we did something from Brandon Sanderson's like Mistborn, a part of this is just I know enough about Lord of the Rings, but I don't know like the deep lore. Which for me, not knowing that, I mean the visuals, the music, I don't think I don't didn't so much enjoy the revenge toward it. I question if how valid that was, but. I mean, I guess I like this a lot more than you guys did.
Yeah, and I knew that was going to be a possible issue. And I envy you to a certain degree that you don't know, because I'm sure this show is dope as hell.
Because like so far, I'm very intrigued. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of different storylines, and the one that I have the biggest question on is the Hartfoots, which seem like the Hobbits or
cousins,
yeah, something like that. And then I guess I should just ask you, who the hell is the dude that came out of a fireball?
I'm going to let Alec go there, and then this will be our last point before we move on to the next show.
No, we don't know.
We're worried.
Possibilities. JJ and I are thinking it might be Gandalf.
No, because that's what I was thinking, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked up online, right? And I saw that some people thought maybe it was the Blue Wizards, but JJ cracked that hope for me because they are part of the Silmarillion and the Unfinished Tales, which we don't think the show has the right to, so it can't be them. It appears to be Gandalf because shows up with the Harfoots. Gandalf is known to have, real close ties with the hobbits, the little people.
Fair. That's what I was thinking too.
He talks to the fireflies, right? And the fireflies, Gandalf used to talk to bugs all the time, and the moss and stuff like that. And then you have even to the point where fire, and Gandalf used fire all the time when he was fighting.
All the time.
The only thing, and I didn't mention this to JJ, I saved this part. When he lands and he goes up, you see the eye of Sauron. So other people are saying, oh, it's Sauron. But that doesn't fit into the lore, which is another problem JJ had with it.
Yeah.
Well, but Sauron was already there. Like, why would Sauron come back in a meteor? Like, that wouldn't make any sense.
But he also had a human form.
He did?
Yeah. So the rings were all these rings of power, name of the show. The ones that the elves had, 3 for the elves, 9 for the humans, and 5 for the dwarves. 7 for the dwarves. So all of those rings are forged by Celebrimbor, and the guy we meet, and it's done
in that furnace thing they're trying
to forge that he's wanting to build with Elrond and the dwarves. So the problem is those rings are developed. He's basically tricked into building those by Sauron in human form, because Sauron was a great metal worker. He also was a crafter and a builder. So he gets Celebrimbor to build these rings because they trust him. They'll take them from him. He builds then as Sauron in the Fires of Mount Doom, the ring, which he knows now how the other one was built because he's part of the other rings of power being built, that he can use that one to control the others. So that's how they get built. So we've already seen Celebrimbor. So the only way that is Sauron, because I thought that same thing too, the eye. I saw the eye in the fire. The only way that's him is if Celebrimbor had the idea for the forge himself. The stranger then goes on to talk to Celebrimbor in human form and convinces him to use that said thing, the forge, to build the rings. If that's the case, we have a long ass time, because it takes them a long time to build the forge, and even longer to build these rings, to be successful with the rings. So there's a lot there. I'm with Alec. I think it's going to be Gandalf, because they're using every possible thing that they can to tie it to the original trilogy. So,
I mean, and I would have a problem. Like, fine, cool, like,
sure,
but the way I just don't like this weird, like, I guess it'll be fine. That's the one part of the story so far I'm just not as interested in at the moment, because it's not as visually cool or straightforward. Or, but the one thing that I appreciated that you just didn't see a lot. You saw it in Lord of the Rings, in The Hobbit too, more so in The Hobbit. It's just the line, especially between, in this one, humans and elves, and like the hatred and things. And I thought they really did a good job of kind of portraying that, where like in The Hobbit, like dwarves obviously hated the elves, distrusted men to an extent. And I've always appreciated that about Lord of the Rings, that they've really been able to, just the world building aspects, to me at times are second to none.
For sure. Yeah, and I like the Harfoots. I'm excited to see where that goes. I just wish the Stranger wasn't there. Like I was intrigued. Again, characters that aren't part of. It's all that stuff that's
Nori
you like the little. Yeah,
Nori was
Nori's cool.
as
The
hell.
little prophecy guy with the crazy hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that all crazy hair, but
True. Yeah, I liked it. All right, well, we'll be back next week to talk more about the Rings of Power. If you're with us live, please hang out. You'll see a little cut. We're going to play some more videos so that I can edit these into separate videos of their own. But hang out with us if you're live. We do have a couple people watching, so we appreciate that. Then we're going to jump in and talk about House of Dragon. Before we do that, though, Mattson, tell everybody where they can find this real quick.
Yeah. If you are liking what you're hearing, check us out on What's Our Verdict Reviews, wherever good podcasts can be found. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you want to listen to us. Check us out at whatsourverdict.com to see what's upcoming. Check us out on TikTok. We got a lot of random fun videos, movie trivia, Tigers talking, roasting videos of co-hosts, you name it. And what's going on in our world. I mean, we've House of the Dragon, The Rings of Power. We've got She-Hulk going. Andor's going to be starting up in a couple of weeks, and then we're sprinkling in some kind of older movies at this point, since what's in theaters is not very good at the moment.
For sure. All right. Well, there it is. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic Hour. Again, if you're live, hang out with us. We'll be right back. Oh, what the hell? Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast. We fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts, Mattson.
Better read than dead.
And Alec Burgess.
Call me Daemon Targaryen, second of my name.
I think someone's pumped about this episode.
I love it. As always, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you tuning in. If you're watching live, love it. If you're listening to us after the fact, love it just as much. Go ahead and hit that follow, subscribe, like button, the bell notification so you keep up with all of our episodes. Yeah. Alec, if you're on YouTube watching, you can see Alec is now Alec Targaryen. And the wig looks just as good as the ones on the show. I'm not going to lie.
Right? $5.
That's
Boom.
right. I'm telling you.
We have zero budget problems with this show, I swear.
Hilarious. I love it. All right, so we are here to talk House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 3. And unlike if you've been watching live, what we just talked about, I was finally feeling it. This show got really good this episode.
I was going to say, JJ, after what I saw, I'm just waiting here. I feel like they gave you what you were looking for.
Absolutely. I loved it. And the funny part is other than the end, like the first battle, I was like, okay, this is cool. But all the stuff in the middle, the intrigue and the drama and like the actual coming of age of these characters and the realization of all the shit that they're in, like that was more interesting to me than even the battles and the violence. Like, because watching Rhaenyra, like, and we know she's been doing this for at least a couple of years now, like bottling up all the bullshit she's been having to go through. It's just interesting to see the rest of it. So what did you guys think?
Mattson, you're up.
Oh, I'm up?
You're up.
Oh, man. I mean, Jay just said a lot of it, but I'm gonna go to the end. I gotta talk about my boy Damien. I mean, what a G. When Viserys finally decides, hey, I'm helping my brother out. I'm sending troops. I'm sending aid. And the Lord Cornelius, and like they're kind of doubting Daemon, and a lot of people died. A lot of ships have burned. And then Damien gets the message from the messenger, reads it, and just starts beating the living shiz out of him. And then we finally see we're like, this dude's going on a solo mission. He doesn't want help. He's going to end it on his terms. Man, like the imagery, the bossness, like the balls, the sheer, like we're talking like metal weighted, diamond studded balls that are just dragging on the ground at this point. I mean, it was awesome. Just that whole build, that fight. And then at some point when he took a couple arrows, I liked that they didn't make this dude invincible. Like, you knew he was going to get hit. He was going to get hurt. And it looked like he was probably going to die. And then those dragons appear out of nowhere. The fighting amongst all that and just the battle that ensued. So cool to see all of that. And just to see that story for him, as I assume, because he survives, and what's going to happen now that he made a name. Like, he is now not just the king's brother. He is the individual that killed the crab. What did they call him again?
Crab feeder.
Crab feeder. Like, and he killed him in a dope way, and he basically did it himself. Like, and what's the Lord Coriolis's, what's his faction called? Like, his House of the
Valerians.
They gotta respect Damien now. Like, the dude did it, and he didn't need his brother, and it was freaking awesome. I mean, I'm really liking Damien's character, because I know he's got credibility. He's gonna pop off, and I don't know what way it's going down, but I am in his camp.
Rhaenyra and Viserys became my favorite characters this episode.
Yeah, it was good.
Viserys, he a little whiny bitch.
Oh, for sure.
But
the Summer King,
he came through, and what they're doing with his character is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed he's missing 2 fingers now.
Mm-hmm.
They chopped another one off for him, so the rot is spreading. Right, they took 1 digit, didn't slow the spread, so he's got another one.
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I noticed something.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this whole, kind of image, or this, he takes the entire court pretty much to go hunting in the Kingswood when there's a war on. Mm-hmm. And he's this perfect kind of image of the weak Summer King. And I love it, because he has no concern over the fact that his realm is being, picked apart piece by piece. And I wow, it was awesome. And
he's just doing it out of pure stubbornness.
Yeah,
he's just being a dick. It's just like, my brother pissed me off, so screw that guy.
So good. And then Rhaenyra, yeah, she's been good from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just keeps getting better and better and better. And I really hope she gets the throne, and there's not going to be that kind of rebellion and whatnot, even though I know it probably isn't the case, but
I can tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Yeah. But she's so cool. I love watching her on screen. And dude, she took out a fucking boar.
Mm-hmm. I mean, technically, what's his face helped her. He actually
helped her.
Stuck it with a sword, but
she's
then
royalty. She's gonna write the book.
Well, and I love, like, when she, like, rampage, like, you can just tell she's letting out years of being pissed at like, and having to be courtly, because unfortunately, and what you don't think about, and what I didn't think about until this episode, is she has to be on her best behavior at all times, because especially now, the last year or 2 years, because her little half brother's born, on a whim, her dad could take away the ability for her to be queen and take away her rights, in that way. And that's what everybody wants. But imagine the frustration of
having to deal with the Lannister.
Yeah, well, that too. What a dick. Yeah, like, frankly, the whole thing, you're like, what is happening right now? Like, it's just, I would hate to be her, because, again, you're stuck, right? Like, you don't have a choice but to be proper all the time and not get in trouble, because if you get in trouble, you're no longer the heir. And now she has a little more leeway, I think, because at the end of this episode, her dad basically swore to her that he'll never take away her being the heir. So
yeah, but he told her that when they were alone.
Fair.
Yeah,
not in writing.
But what happens when he dies anyway?
Die soon.
It doesn't matter when he dies. It doesn't matter what he said.
Yeah, well, he's got a long way before he dies, to be honest with you. Like, they're full on adults, and he has, like, I think he might have a great grandkid by the time he dies. So then there's still going to be some time jump, because there's a whole nother Rhaenyra and Allison actress coming.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. That was my question, because I was like, they're to a point where they're jumping another 2-4 years. Like, this current version of Rhaenyra is like, it just won't work. Like,
yeah. So I think you're going to get another, from what I saw, you'll see one more in a few months time jump, maybe not at all, because it looks like, according to the preview that I saw, Daemon's coming back to say, I'm now the king of the Narrow Sea, which is a very interesting time frame. But they're still young at that point. And then there's going to be another jump where I think they'll jump after that to way in the future, and that's when shit starts getting weird. And then like a lot of these the posturing for who's going to be king, who's going to be queen. I will give you the secret that the king never does take away her being the heir, but shit goes sideways real quick when Viserys dies.
Oh yeah, you could already tell, like, because people don't respect a woman on the throne anyways, and that's a lot of what this episode showed is people are already talking behind the king, and he knows it, and now he's realized it, but he's also he's just not a very powerful king. He just kind of he's weak, very weak.
Well, and now you have all of these families that want to be involved, because shit gets even more complicated because technically, yeah, I won't go there because we'll see how it goes. But there's other families that get drawn into this because Rhaenyra does get married. And so there's additional families that are now all looking and going, hey, I want my kid to be king or queen or, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of complex issues coming that we're just now starting to see how they get there. So I appreciate the fact that they've taken their time in getting here, because this episode was cool. And it was really fun to see these characters getting tied in, like watching Rhaenyra in this episode, and that actress is killing it. I hope the next one that plays her is just as good. So, yeah, there's a lot.
You don't want to marry your 2-year-old sibling?
Yeah, your 2-year-old half brother. I mean, technically, it's not weird for Targaryens, but.
What I loved about that was you have Otto Hightower who suggests it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's his grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be on the throne, right? Dude plays the Game of Thrones great. He's like Littlefinger from the original series.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have I can't remember his name. The guy
Harwin.
Harwin.
His
all
last
the
name
right decisions.
Yeah, I think Harwin's his last name.
He's awesome. He's like, I told you once.
Yeah.
You didn't listen. I'm gonna tell you again. This is what you need to do for A, B, C, D. He's the only one who wants to keep that realm together.
Yeah.
Which means he's going to get poisoned.
And he has no horse in the race, right? Like, he just is looking at the realm. That's why I kind of like him. He's like kind of like the Ned Stark of this. He just wants what's best for the realm. And so he's not long for the world.
Sound advice. He's not.
Yeah.
Ned Stark, a name I now recognize.
Yeah. Well, and Breakbones, they did mention Breakbones, and he'll have a bigger role to play in this story when they get down. So his kid, Breakbones, will have a much bigger story to play, or part to play in this story. So I'm very interested on how they'll introduce him to, other than the name drop in this particular episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I feel like this show's finally hit its stride and is moving forward pretty quickly, which I'm excited for. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could come, and I hope they continue to play it the way that they have, because this episode was dope.
I will say I was surprised how effective the Triarchy and the Crab Feeder were at lasting out on the Stepstones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unfazed by the fact that there was a dragon.
Yeah.
Just hide in the cave.
Yep.
It's like, wow.
Dragons, that's a funny one. Alec is currently frozen. Now he's back.
And he's back.
I mean, dragons could only get in there so far, but those are baby dragons. Because that one, what's that? Igor, with the huge dragon that they had, the skull.
Oh, Balerion, the Black Dread.
Oh, Balerion, that thing's like what?
Yeah.
10 times the size of the dragons that I saw on screen.
Yeah, those are mature dragons, but they're little mature dragons. They're young.
So when at the beginning when they showed Damien and the crab people were shooting like fire arrows, that just didn't seem like a smart fighting tactic. It seemed like Damien's just being overly cocky. Hey, I have a dragon. I'm gonna burn all you people. But at some point, if you have enough arrows and people, like, a dragon can't do everything.
Well, that's usually so. The arrows can't pierce the dragon's hide.
Oh, they can't. Not even the wings.
Arrows won't hurt. Like, it might stick in a wing or something, but not enough that it hurts at anything. That's one of the things in the books that they talk about is that the arrows are like throwing toothpicks at a dragon. What they have to do is they build these big, huge, what are they called? Ballista with these massive arrows in them. And those will do some damage, but normal arrows won't hurt. That was one of the things. A lot of times they talk about the dragon riders getting killed because they were overly cocky, and the arrows can still kill the rider. They just can't kill the dragon. So
that's why it's still, I mean, because Damon was overly cocky. You're like, dude, like maybe like go back in the air.
Yeah. Right. It's funny.
He had to learn the hard way. But I mean, the man is brash. Like, he's what he expect. He's gonna go fight all of them and not die. I mean, I guess he was prepared to die, and that's fine. But it just makes you wonder, because his whole thought process then, it must be like, well, I was prepared to die. I didn't die. I'm triumphant. I did this, and now I know what I'm capable of, and I feel like he's got to be a man with even. I feel like he didn't even have fear before, but now he's got none. He was ready to die.
Yeah, he was. All right. Well, I would say we've talked a lot about these shows. We will be back around next week about this same time. Talk about both of these shows again.
If you guys have questions, anything you need to bring to the table when you see some, you let us know before. Bring it to the show. We love to answer things clearly. I don't know anything, but I'll provide my 2 cents. Alec doesn't look like he knows anything right now, but we have JJ.
Alec might outtake me on Lord of the Rings, but I think Game of Thrones, I got him. So,
JJ, right. You can't know everything. You can't be a nerd of Marvel, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Game of Thrones.
Watch me. I just think Alec has a little more knowledge on the Lord of the Rings side than I do. But
what JJ doesn't know is I'm sitting here Googling everything as it comes up.
Yeah. I mean, I can hang with him, but he might have me there. So, all right. Well, Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us if they're not watching us live.
Hey, if you're not on YouTube, you can definitely listen to our podcast. Where we good podcasts can be found in Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, to name a few. At What's Our Verdict Reviews. Check us out at whatsourverdict.com to see what's on the docket for the future. Drop us a comment. If you want us to review something, email us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com. Charles and a few others have certainly done so. We're always looking to please the common folk, as I like to say. And if you want to interact with us on social media, TikTok is where it is at the moment. Alec is doing his thing. Weird videos galore. Check us out there as well. But we are excited to continue on with these 2 shows. Keep doing She-Hulk, sprinkling Andor there shortly, and then do some kind of more old school movies, and then do our kind of off the cusp topics that we've been sprinkling in here as well. So we are excited.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mattson. Yeah, we appreciate you tuning in as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!